Derek Fisher joins us. Derek was drafted the same year as Kobe Bryant, won multiple championships with Kobe Bryant. You said playing with Kobe Bryant for 13 years was a gift. How so?
Well, I think, first to Vanessa, Natalia, Bianca, Capri, I hope us having this conversation continues to, in some way, help the healing process. So when I talk about my time working with Kobe and being a teammate and a friend and a brother, that it was a gift for me because for a guy from Little Rock, Arkansas with very marginal, basketball, high-level skill, to be able to watch someone 4 years younger than I be so driven and so laser focused on being the greatest basketball player to ever play. That was a gift for me. I would not have lasted in the NBA as long as I did without having seen the way he approached his job on a daily basis.
You come in as rookies. Do you have a first memory of Kobe Bryant that you've reflected upon now?
Honestly, my first memory of Kobe Bryant is before we met. My mom, after the NBA draft concluded in 1996, she was confused as to why a young man coming out of high school that was drafted was receiving more attention than her son, who had played 4 years in college. And everybody in LA was talking about Kobe Bryant and not Derek Fisher. It was confusing. So she wrote a note to Jay Leno to ask if maybe I could be on the show one day to see if, maybe I could get some attention. I remember being on the flight to LA, leaving Little Rock, and thinking the same thing. Nobody knows who I am as I fly into LA, but we all know Kobe Bryant's name, and I couldn't wrap my mind around a high school athlete being able to just come into the NBA and obviously do what he was able to do.
When was the moment then? Was it the first practice, or when was it when you realized, oh, I get it, why he's getting all this publicity? Because you maybe played more than him his rookie year, eh?
Yeah, which is crazy to say. Somebody didn't know what they were doing. I'm not sure. It's, I think that for me, what solidified and cemented where he, I think, will rest now, honestly, was in practice almost every day. Some of the plays that he was able to complete and make in practice, the dunks, the multiple moves, the footwork, I knew he was special right away, and I never judged how determined he was to stay on his path, even though other people couldn't quite see it. I think that's why our relationship, although it was never always perfect, we never always agreed, but I think he realized that I never judged how he went about being who he was.
What was your relationship with Kobe Bryant? How would you describe it?
Well, I wish he was still here to describe it. I think he best describes it in terms of, he was my all-time favorite teammate. I'm obsessively committed to trying to figure out how my team can beat your team, and willing to do whatever it takes to get to that point. And to me, that's what always defined our relationship. Even though I could barely, hold his shoestring, he still allowed me to go along for the ride because we shared that bond of, I'll die out here on this court if I need to, in order to make sure that my opponent knows he's not going to last longer than I am. And I feel like that's how we were both able to lead the teams that we played on together, and the guys that played with us, I think they were open enough and man enough to allow us to lead the way we tried to.
Is it fair, from what I've read, that Kobe Bryant was not an easy teammate? They say the same thing about Michael Jordan in terms of the demands he asked upon other players to be better.
It's a tough question to answer. I felt like for me it was easy.
Okay.
For others, I could see that it wasn't, and but that's a part of, I think, accessing the level of greatness that he was born to access. He was gifted to us for all of the things that he was able to do and inspire in the rest of us. Like to see the people flood downtown LA to react around the world, like he was born to do this. And so that's not supposed to be easy.
Right.
It's really not to play with, but I think more than anything, why my heart hurts is how hard it must have been to be him, to be the guy that people felt like it wasn't easy to work with, when in his mind, all he wanted to do was win. Why would that be hard to do? Why would that be hard to work with? And I think that's why we were great teammates.
When you look outside and you see the scene outside, and I mean, you're busted up about this because he was your friend. I met him twice, and I'm busted up about it. And there's people out there who never met him who are busted up about it. Why is that?
I mean, I think on some level we all feel like we haven't given our all or our best in everything we've ever done, whether sometimes it's at home, whether it's at work, with our job, with our hobbies, whatever it is. And there was something about Kobe that I think reassured us that it's possible, to give every ounce of yourself and literally exhaust yourself to be great at what you want to do, to be great at what you love to do. He often spoke of the sacrifices it required to do that, though. And I think we appreciate that, and that's why we're torn. We don't see many people with that level of dedication to who they are and what they're trying to become. And he did it imperfectly, and we oftentimes judged him while he was going through it, while he was doing it. But I think looking back on it all, now a lot of us are gonna celebrate a man that we probably should have been celebrating much sooner.
What can you tell me about the man?
Probably better than the player. I think to be a great person, you have to have the ability to go with the hard parts of life, the parts of life that aren't easy. And I think to watch him evolve and grow as a husband and as a father was just as or more meaningful than anything else we experienced. His two oldest daughters are basically the same age as the two daughters that I have, 17 and 13. And so the way our relationship evolved as we both learned how to be fathers and how to try and be a husband that was never home, that was hard. And so we oftentimes would have those type of conversations. We talked about three things. We talked about winning championships, raising kids, and we oftentimes bonded over Jay-Z lyrics. And those are the things we talked about the most. And I think the birth of his children, it created a level of, I don't think we understand what unconditional love really means until we have children. Like, we think we love our partner, our spouse, but we don't really get love until your child is born. And there's no disrespect to people that don't have children. That's my opinion. And he was a different person after his girls were born. And I think it made him a better man, a better teammate, understanding that you have to sacrifice yourself in order to give the best version of yourself to someone else. I don't know if any of us understand that until our children are born, and that brought us closer.
Tell me what what you know about Gigi. I know she was a Sparks fan.
Yeah, no, it's going to be difficult, I think, to continue to think about the impact she was and I think will continue to have on the women's game and on young girls. She's a huge fan of the game in general, a Sparks fan, a fan of college basketball, women's college basketball. She has elevated businesses and industries and things that she's never done herself. Like, she's 13, never played in college, never played in the WNBA, yet will make both of those spaces better because of who she was. To see a young person, I guess to no surprise, as driven as she was to be a great basketball player, it was a joy. Like Natalia is the oldest daughter, and oftentimes, when Gigi would be around, you could see the difference between, like, Natalia adored Kobe, daddy's girl, but wasn't as drawn to being on the court the same way as Gigi. And my hope is that, whether it's our organization and anybody involved on the women's side of the game, the thing that I want to continue to talk about is not really Kobe locker room stories, but what he was doing for girls and women and for the WNBA, and how we all have to figure out a way to do better, to do more, to try and do more for our women and our young girls, especially of color. Oftentimes those opportunities are limited, and we have to be better.
Who pushed who more? Did Gigi push her dad more? Dad, you've got to be more involved in this, or did he push her more? I mean, where did he get that commitment to the women's game and the equity and all those things that he was so strong about? Was it just the birth of the girls?
I think it's a combination, would be my best guess. Just having two daughters myself, like I think as they start to become preteens and teenagers, you start to realize that they're going to be experiencing the world that you're leaving behind for them. And when you are someone of influence and impact the way Kobe was and is and will be, then there are responsibilities that come with that. And I think he embraced those responsibilities to his girls, to his wife, to the basketball community at large. And I'm inspired to do more because of him in terms of women. I think Gigi is what pushed it. He wouldn't be coaching girls basketball if it were not for Gigi. I don't think that's what he thought he would be doing after retiring from the NBA. So I think for sure Gianna pushed him to be as involved as he was and is in the girls' game.
Did he ever call you up and try and give you some coaching tips, or did you tell him to stay in his own lane?
Nah, we talk about a lot, but I think very rarely ever, again, like, judged each other in any way, Only advice he had for me was really, honestly, on Dancing with the Stars, where he had some advice for me there, but it's just, yeah, it's difficult to process that we won't be able to converse about anything anymore in the same way, although we'll still talk.
I asked you first memory. I want to ask you fondest memory or lasting memory that you'll have of Kobe Bryant.
Lasting memory is like as a man who has failed and experienced what divorce is like and trying to co-parent and parent children through challenges and difficult things. We talked about some of his challenges and things that he was navigating and working his way through in that regard. And he made a comment to me that changed the way I had to think about parenting and co-parenting, in particular when I was coaching in New York. My children lived back in LA. And we were talking, and I won't get into all of the details of the conversation, but he basically said, as he thought about his life, Vanessa, his girls, he had to look 20 years ahead and think about where they would be if he wasn't there. And that thought is what allowed a shift to happen in terms of the type of husband, the type of father, the type of presence he wanted to have as a man. And in the Black community, I don't know if anything says more than that, to decide that I'm gonna actively be home for my children and stay right here. And I don't know if there's any greater legacy than that.
It's Derek Fisher as we remember the life of Kobe Bryant.